Hello, everyone. Well, obviously, I'm not Deb Arnold. No one could replace her, but unfortunately, she was having some internet trouble. So I have taken the baton to host today's live AL Live with our women's panel. So I just want to go ahead and welcome everyone to the room. And I want to take a few minutes to talk about one of our offerings that we're starting to launch. We're going to start doing some free 30-minute consultations through Alignment Leadership. Our consultants will take some time out of their schedule to talk with you just about struggles that you're having, talk you through and support you through any questions that you're having as far as like leading your team, or if you are a team member, just how to reach out to someone if you're feeling like you're not fulfilled. So if you go to our website, that's alignleadthrive.com/consulting, you can sign up to have a free 30-minute consultation with one of our consultants. So I'd like to take this time to go ahead and introduce our amazing panelists today. Our first panelist is Emily Blanco. Hey, Emily, how are you?
Hello, doing well. How about you, Whitney?
I'm great. I'm a little fidgety, but it's all about pivoting and not panicking. So I'm just
You're
taking
doing
that to
great.
heart today. Why don't you go ahead and take about 30 seconds to tell us about, who you are, what you do, and who you lead?
Absolutely. So I'm Emily Blanco. You know that. I'm one of the managing partners for MSB Ventures. I'm currently serving in the business development department for MSB School Services. And so I am leading the sales and marketing team, which includes a group of 6 people. So that is the group that I'm currently leading.
Awesome. And you say currently leading
Yeah.
because I know that with a managing partner role,
Yes.
you have so many hats you wear. So thank you for wearing those hats beautifully, and
Thank
thank you for
you.
doing what you do. And
I
thank you for being
appreciate that
here.
because I don't actually look good in hats. So the metaphor is helpful.
Oh, it takes a strong person to wear a hat. I'll tell you that. All right, our next panelist is Tabbatha Callaway. Hey, Tab.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going with you?
We're surviving, right? That's what
We
we got to
are. We
do. That's
definitely
it.
survived. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, what you
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm Tabbatha Callaway. I am the executive director of School Services. It's a company that provides consulting to special education students in public schools. I currently, in my executive director role, I oversee 3 executives and about 10 leaders across our organization to ensure our success.
That's awesome. I love it.
Thanks.
All right. And our final panelist is Miss Denise Holliday. Hi, Denise.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello.
We're doing
Hey.
great. Well, go ahead and tell us who you are, what you do, and who you lead.
Yes, my name is Denise Holliday, and I'm the co-founder of National Educators for Restorative Practice. Restorative practice is a relational approach to building and sustaining relationships. I lead a staff of formerly educators across the nation as we travel to provide training through school districts throughout the nation.
That sounds awesome and very intriguing. And I was wondering if we could put you on the spot for a little bit, because we know that your nickname is Circle Mama. So we would love if you would lead us in a quick circle just to open up the time, get loose. So would you mind doing that for us?
Absolutely. So the circle process is a process where everyone's voice is valued and heard. And so we usually use a talking piece, but we won't for this. We'll just go from left to right. And there's some guidelines. Speak from your heart, listen from the heart, and keep it 100. So I just want to do a quick check-in first. And that check-in is going to be, if you were weather, like any weather, sunshine is going to be, I'm doing amazing. Of course, when the thunderstorm is, I'm not doing so okay. So you were a weather, what weather would you be today? And I'll answer. If I was a weather today, I would say sunshine slash a little cloudy, because I'm a little nervous about this. No.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I'll go next.
Cool.
So I think that I'm feeling more a little bit cloudy, like you said, I'm a little nervous, but there's definitely some sunshine rays coming through because it's been a good morning. I woke up really well this morning. So yeah.
Awesome.
Emily, you want to go next?
Sure. So I would say maybe my response went less to or more to in general than current scenario. I think that I am maybe like a Florida afternoon storm. It rains every day at like 3 o'clock in Florida. There's a little moodiness there, but generally some good energy.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's funny, Emily. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, Denise and Whitney took more of an approach of like right now. And I was like, my mind went immediately to, I think I'm a hurricane, but everybody that I'm actually being a hurricane for in their lives, they're sitting on the patio covered and I got them. So they're good. But I'm definitely can
That's
feel
poetic.
like a hurricane. Isn't
it? Profound, sister.
Wow.
Wow.
Can I change my answer?
I know.
Awesome. So the next question I want to ask you guys, money is no option. If you could quarantine in any place other than your home, what would your quarantine place be?
Oh.
So just a couple seconds to think about that. I know, right?
I know.
I'm ready.
You ready? I'm ready. Tabbatha, you go first then.
Girl, I would be on a restaurant patio and somebody making my drinks that I will never take for granted a restaurant patio again in my life.
Wait, but you would quarantine there?
Yes, I would stay there full time. There would be other ramifications that I get in my life. I get that, but I'm just being diligent about responding in the moment.
Awesome.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
So my quarantine place would definitely be a beach house.
Ooh.
On the beach,
yes.
so that I could step out and get my little beach on and some fishing. Yes, definitely.
Ooh.
House.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think I would probably be in a cabin probably in Yosemite. My husband and I visited Yosemite at the end of last year, and it was beautiful. So I think I'd probably be okay quarantining there for a while. Emily, what about you?
Yeah, I've been thinking one of the things that I've really appreciated about being in quarantine has been like being home in the afternoon hours when it's cool and the weather's nice and getting some patio time. So being that the weather has been what it has been and not just nasty and hot, I would pick Colorado with a good patio, not good winter.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good choice.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much, Denise. That was great. I definitely feel a little looser. I feel ready to dive in. We get so many good tidbits of information from these AL Lives. So I want to go ahead and dive into our first question. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up to Emily first. So our first question is, how has the pandemic impacted you personally and or professionally?
Yeah, Whitney, I think that's a great question. I think that I am not unique in the fact that once I realized we were going into quarantine, some feelings of unrest started to settle in of just like, one, there's a break in routine. Two, there's less community. And I think while at first that unrest was fear inducing for me, what I started to realize is the forcing me to rest was restorative, like really, really restorative.
Yeah.
And that is a word that I almost feel guilty using because it's not lost on me the impact that this pandemic has had on a lot of people in every walk of life. And so I think that initial feeling of restoration has allowed me to figure out how can I help people who maybe haven't had the gift of a period of restoration and have experienced more hardship. So I think it's kind of done this paradox of worlds for me of like, I feel deeply rooted in my community, personally, like my family community, but it's also opened me up to how small I am in the world and how there are so many people that are struggling and didn't get this gift of restoration. And what can I do to maybe help them get to a season of that, or at least not be in a season of like constant turmoil and conflict. So it's been very like this dichotomy, these two worlds kind of like fighting each other. But I've tried to take the tension out of that and figure out, well, how can these two worlds serve each other instead?
Beautiful. I love that. We always take that caring route as a woman. Like, we always think about how to care for others, how to care for ourselves. So it's beautiful that you're thinking about both of those angles there. Tab, did you want to go ahead and answer that question as well? How has the pandemic impacted you professionally and personally?
Yeah, I tried to stay kind of centered in responding with like, what is my gut? What is it telling me? Like, what am I learning? Because I think all of us have learned a ton about ourselves personally and professionally. And so I was just thinking about the word that came to mind for me was hard work. I grew up with a family that's all. I mean, blue collar, you work hard for everything that you have, and you dedicate your time. You're committed to even what you do at work. And so I was also an athlete for a big portion of my life. And so I was really taught these like hard work. This is what we do. You show up and you execute. And so when I thought about that during this season, I'm like, how is it that, I've been working for the similar company for 15 years, a third of my life almost. But yet I've never felt like I've worked harder than I have in the last couple of months. And I got it down to like this experience of, I have created a work environment where I'm in a community office space where it's a wide open, multiple people kind of office out of it. And people can literally I don't even think we have doors. I can't remember if we have doors on this room, but people just come in and, whether it's they have a question, they need consultation, they need community. It's constant. Well, having that for as long as I've had, and now moving into a very logistical heavy technology world where you have to be extremely disciplined to recreate that experience so that people can have the level of fulfillment and engagement that they need. That has been extremely challenging, but one that we've risen up to and I'm thankful for. But I've learned a new set of hard skills in the realm of logistics. Let's just say that.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I kind of want to deep dive into that just a little bit. I had a question that came up as you were speaking. And so you said that you have worked harder than you ever had during this season. Yeah. Do you think that you working hard like that is a correlation to like the season being hard, so feeling the need to work harder because of the season? Or do you feel like it's just the nature that you always have is that you always work hard, but you feel like because you're at home, you are working harder because it's at home?
Yeah. Awesome. I love the question. I was thinking about, at first, it was probably fear-based that was driving a lot of the hard work, wanting to give people confidence, combating social media on the impacts of organizations of, that are going through this, and knowing that their revenues were going to be drastically cut, and probably out of fear, preemptively making some decisions to furlough employees or discontinue that. And so for me, it was definitely like I wanted to work really hard to gain confidence in what I could communicate to employees that gave them security and safety, so they could continue to serve the purpose of our company. But then it started to shift where I became admiring the staff. I admired their heart. I admired their focus and their intentionality, that I became working harder for them out of just loyalty and commitment. And it's been the most fulfilling experience of my career. So like Emily said, it feels weird to say those things because you hear so many other realities for people. But I'm thankful for this lesson that will be forever with me, and how I'm going to pursue people, treat them, and know when they're fulfilled, what that happens in our organization and in their lives.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah. I want to ask more, but I want to move on to Denise. Denise, so I want to open that question up to you as well. How do you feel like the pandemic has impacted you personally and professionally?
Yeah, I feel like it's impacted me in a way. I am a people person, and human connections matter. Human connection makes
Absolutely.
the world go round, and we need it. Even though we don't think that we do, we need it. And for me, sitting here in my home, it's been a time for me of self-reflection. Being able to just pause and sit down and think, like, moving forward, what is that going to look like in the people that I serve? Which are teachers, educators, families. How are they going to be able to continue to connect and build community with one another in this whole, we're not able to really touch and hands. And so I've had to rethink that. But the biggest part for me is I get my energy and my bucket gets filled from connections with others. And not having that, I'm having to be a little bit more creative in the way I get to do that. I don't get my hugs, which I'm a hugger and I love, but what can I do to make sure that I'm continuing to reach out with those that I lead in a way that they still feel cared about, connected with, heard, seen, and valued.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's definitely something I have struggled with the most during this time is not having that human connection. So because I'm also a hugger. I love hugging people, even if I just met them, I always give them a hug. But one of the things I think is most beautiful about this time is that the first thing that we tried to correct about this season is how to create those connections digitally. That's one of the first things that we wanted to do in the season was how are we going to reach out to our friends, our family, and still feel that connection without being able to touch them. And so I hope and pray that that's something that continues to carry on throughout once we start going back to work or things start opening back up, is that we continue to pursue those connections, even if we can't see or touch those people. Like for me personally, my family lives back in Louisiana. So I have never seen us want to reach out digitally before as much as we have during this time. And we were already, 8 hours away from each other. So I completely agree and totally love that. So for our audience out there, don't forget that throughout this, please drop your questions into the comments and we're going to answer them starting now. Gunnar Rogers asked, do you ever wrestle with diversity being deeper than the surface? That yes, we want and need women in leadership, but is it because of their unique worldview, not because of their gender? And I will go ahead and start opening it up to Denise. Again, the question was, do you ever wrestle with diversity being deeper than the surface?
Absolutely, all the time, especially with the audience that I serve, students that come from low economic backgrounds and teachers understanding. We have to understand the culture of the students and families that we serve in order to make sure that we are diverse in how we serve them. Absolutely.
Yeah. Emily, did you want to take a stab at the question as well? Do you ever wrestle with diversity being deeper than the surface?
Sure. I think I do, because I've not, to my knowledge at least, been the recipient of exclusivity, regardless of my gender or anything that would qualify me in a diversity quota type world, if that makes sense. And so I don't necessarily try to apply anything to anyone else that I'm working with. So I think that leadership is more about what your goal is and really figuring out where the other person wants to go, and do you have the capacity to help that person get to their journey. And so it's not for me about putting myself in the front because I'm a woman or not a woman. It's about putting myself beside the person because I want to be a part of their journey. So I think that diversity has become somewhat of a surface level quota to meet that devalues the potential a person actually has.
Yes.
Yeah. And Tab, I know you and Emily both work closely with Chris Miroff, and something we continually say, something part of our purpose statement is transcending the bounds of diversity. So how have you wrestled with diversity being deeper than the surface?
When I hear the question, I'm immediately like, I wonder what the intentions are of the person asking. And because for me, I don't wrestle with it. I mean, I grab a hold of it and we deal with it. So for me, diversity is just that. Talk it out. Understand the differences and understand the destination, and not be sensitive, but talk it out in a way that we both can appreciate where we're from, what our experiences have been, what our worldviews are, in a way that helps us to come up with a really great way to get to that destination, where we all feel like we're winning. So I'm just not a person that wrestles with it. I appreciate it and I lean into it as quickly as possible. Because that just sounds like almost like I got exhausted by even the idea of wrestling with it. I was like, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to wrestle. So, I was like, got time. That ain't the kind of hard work I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Should never be part of a quota. Diversity should be a way of living.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that means that we just show up as our best self, to understand one another, to know and learn from each other. Yes, definitely not a quota, but a way of living.
Yeah. It's good,
And
Denise.
at one of our past MSBUs, which they hold as a leadership development summit for our work, Chris Miroff spoke about celebrating diversity. He specifically said, and you can watch the video, it's posted on Alignment Leadership's Facebook page right now, but he specifically said, if I choose not to know you, then I'm the one that's losing, because knowing you can open up my world. It opens up my worldview. I can celebrate your diversity. Like, I am a better person from knowing you, regardless of whether I like you, I like your personality, I accept your preferences. Knowing you will make me a better person. So I love all of your responses. I definitely feel like I agree with Denise. Diversity should not be a quota, restriction. So
I think the intent of a quota is probably somewhat meaningful and deserves to be explored, because I think it's trying to embrace some things that are generally received as acceptable definitions of diversity. However, I don't think those qualifiers are the only things that allow a person to be diverse. It's not just their gender, it's not just their race, it's not just their background. It is their worldview, it is their beliefs. It's so much more that you can't see on the surface with your eyes. You have to get to know that person. And so I think that while I would like to assume some good intent in a quota, it's just not executed in a way that's actually about the person. It's about generally a corporation.
Right.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Good. So let's move on to our next question. This one comes from Alignment Leadership's team. What makes your leadership unique and valuable? Name one specific thing and own it. So who wants to go first on that one?
Okay, so what's my unique leadership valuable is that my team, and they'll tell you, it's kind of why I got the name Circle Mama, because I love so hard and so unconditionally that you will never, I'm the heart of what our organization does. And so the heart is just about loving unconditionally, without judgment. My team always says, I'm the lover of all humans. Yeah.
So that's beautiful. It definitely sounds like you own it. And we can definitely tell you have such a loving spirit about you. So I don't doubt that for a second.
Yeah, I've absolutely seen that in our limited interactions. So.
And I'm hoping everybody else can feel that as well, because you're just radiating it.
Thank you.
Tab, did you want to go next?
Sure.
What makes your leadership unique and valuable? Name one and own it.
Yeah, I think it's important to say why I can own what I'm about to say. And because if somebody had asked me, without the community that I've had in my life for as long as I've had, pouring in clarity, helping me name the thing about myself, I don't think I would be able to answer that today. I think that people need that in their lives to be able to have truth spoken into them, because we really rarely self-reflect, and many things, the things that are superpowers are the things that you think are the weakest. So I'm thankful. I just want to take a moment to say, anyone listening, you've been a part of my community, know who you are. Thank you that I can answer this question confidently and own it. But I think of the word loyalty. It's what I've been, told for years. And I believe that about myself. I believe that I am loyal to the depths of the destination and the people I want to go to war with. What I have learned to do with that's kind of superpower, is I've learned to be loyal to a person many times above, be loyal to a purpose over a person. I think before I didn't realize how much weight I was putting on people that I was being loyal to, when really it was about the purpose of what we were doing and where we were going. And that was a huge life lesson I've learned more recently, and how my superpower shows up and kind of some of the failures that I've experienced with it. But I absolutely lean into it because it drives me. It gives me my energy every day. It helps me do the hard work that I want to do. And so I'm so thankful for it. I'm thankful for being able to own it.
That's great that you're able to speak out on that, because it's important to remember that we're only leaders because of the people that we lead. And
absolutely,
they're the ones that build us up. They're the ones that give us the strength and the purpose and the power to lead them in a direction. I mean, and in just knowing them, like when you know your team and you know the people that they are, you want to lead them better. So it's beautiful that you commemorate your leadership superpower to your team. I love that. So Emily, what makes your leadership unique and valuable? And name one and own it.
Yes, absolutely. I think so. Oftentimes, what makes us unique is often the thing that's maybe been caused the most adversity in our lives or been the biggest challenge. And it's what we do with it that makes it unique to us, that no one else could actually have that. So it's not that someone else can't claim the same word, right, but they can't claim the same experience because it's been born from the things that have been adversity in my life. So that specific adversity has been overcoming that people might think I'm stupid. So I'm a learner. I am a learner, and I am extremely curious, and I want to learn the industry that I'm in, for one, but I think that's like the base level. I want to learn the industry so that I have a foundation to learn the person. And then from learning that person and being extremely curious about who they are and why they're in this industry and where they're going in life, I think it's only through being curious as a learner about those aspects that I actually get to have any opportunity to lead them rather than a platform.
Beautiful. Yeah. And again, tying it back to something Chris Miroff has said, like one of the key things about being a leader is continuing to learn, and not only from like not hard stuff, but failures as well, having those excellent failures, learning from them, learning your team, learning how to equip them, how to, allocate resources, continuing to be a leader throughout leadership. I mean, a learner throughout leadership is definitely extremely important. So all three of your answers are extremely important and unique to each of you. And I definitely see that all of you own it. So I love that. And thank you for sharing. Our next question comes from Ian Powell. And he says, as a leader, what has been the most significant barrier during these times, working from home / quarantine, and any tips that you can provide to get over that barrier? So, Tab, do you want to go ahead and open that question up for us?
Yeah. So he's asking what the barrier is to, what was the thing he's perceiving?
What has been the most significant barrier during these times? Like a barrier for you during this work from home quarantine season, and tips that things that you have learned and tips you can give to overcome that barrier.
Yeah, I think the reason why my mind was trying to almost stay flexible to what the question was versus what I've been on a journey on, because I've been using the word barrier actually a lot in my life lately. Because I happen to be in a part of our school services company. We've established basically a small group program where we are creating opportunities for our employees to get together and go through basically a video series to help unpack unity. What is unity, and how do we draw closer together? It's been incredible for our people to commit to a 1 hour week where they get together in these groups and dive into these exercises to help them unpack unity. We picked it because it's exactly what we're trying to maintain in this season. And so in that video series we've been going through, we've been unpacking barriers to unity. And so we talk about 4 common ones. Pride of assumption, specifically fear, ideology. These are some of the ones that really, stood out for us as being like, okay, these can be the challenging ones. Well, the one that actually, the 4th one, I didn't know that I wrestled with this in my life. And so it's come up for me during this season, and it's the definition or the engagement towards the word authority. And so when I think about the barrier that I've been living in, it's this like understanding my relationship with authority in a way that, what am I seeking? What do I need from that relationship so that it provides me the clarity I need to give to other people? And so it's been another discovery point, I think, in my career to navigate that, just being loyal versus being clear and that destination. And so biggest barrier is not getting so lost in the hard work that I'm not prioritizing what's best for what I should be working on and what my people should be working on when I'm unified. And so the barrier is the discipline to make those calls, to seek that clarity, to lean into worrying if you're doing it wrong, that someone might tell you that you're doing something wrong, but to pursue. I mean, at the end of the day, the discipline to pursue.
Yeah, that's spot on what I was thinking. Like, we have this season of being at home, and there's just this cloud that's over all of us, a cloudiness of like what the future is going to bring. What are we supposed to do in this time? How do we adjust? How do we live a normal lifestyle at home all the time? And so having the discipline to seek clarity, especially in a professional environment, and being able to see through that cloud is really important. And not only does it help you, it helps your team as well, because it's like, wow, that person is stepping out and seeking the clarity that they need in this time. I know I have struggled with that as well. And I just had an experience with seeking that clarity yesterday. And I can tell you, I feel worlds better taking that step with my team to say, hey, I don't feel comfortable right now. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I think I have too much on my plate. Can you help? And they sprung into action. They were like, absolutely. Like, we're gonna divvy up this work. We're gonna make sure that you are connected and fulfilled, and you seek clarity through the end until we can get back into the office, and even after that, because we have to remember that things won't stop once we get back in the office. Like, we need to keep these like feelings and practices that we have established during this time once we get back into the office, because it's not that far in the future. I mean, it's right around the corner for us, guys. We're gonna be touching and feeling each other again, like before you know it.
Okay, I was a little nervous about going back, and now I've got to like wrestle with all the fears of what that might look like.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I'll give you I'll give you a notice before I jump in to give you a hug. So.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Denise, I'll open the question up to you next. The question was, as a leader, what has been the most significant barrier you've had during these times, as far as working from home and quarantine, and then tips you have to overcome that barrier?
Absolutely. So I like to see barriers as opportunities for learning or teachable moments. And so the one teachable moment and learning that I've had to do is technology. Oh my
No.
No way.
So, technology, just, all of the apps that we have now, connecting, having those staff meetings and making sure that everybody is in and included. But for me, technology is like, it's over my head. I'm not a technology person, but here's what I do know. Here's the tip. I say lean into the discomfort. It's uncomfortable for me. I feel like I'm out of sorts, but you want to know what? I lean into discomfort and I ask for help. And that's big. That's something that I usually am not able to do is ask for help. But guess what? Lean into discomfort, ask for help, and use it as a teachable or a learning moment.
Perfect. Yeah, they're definitely learning a lot during this time. I'll say that. And Emily, your turn. Again, the question was, as a leader, what has been the most significant barrier during these times of quarantine? And then tips to overcome that barrier.
Sure. Well, I'll share with you a little bit of a journey I went on to get to realizing maybe what this biggest barrier was. And I think that oftentimes, and I may be alone in this, but when I become, as a pretty self-aware person, when I realize, there's this huge, glaringly obvious need that I have, I feel behind in recognizing that I needed that. Like, oh, shouldn't that have been obvious? But what I think is really important to do is figure out that am I alone in that? Because I think oftentimes what I found is like, if I'm experiencing this, likely someone else is, and they could probably have someone define it for them or go through the journey with them. So that thing that I realized I needed as soon as going into this season of quarantine, and potentially even before that, was consistency. And I think that word, the connotation of it kind of scared me, because I tend to be more of an intuitive person, a spontaneous type personality. And so the opposite of that felt like consistency. I was like, well, I don't want to be rigid. I don't want to be a slave to a schedule when I'm wanting to impact people. So how do I marry those two worlds? And I think what I spent some time doing, and what this quarantine forced me to spend some time doing, was define what consistency actually means. And it means, like, to me, the discipline of providing an environment of consistency, not a rigid schedule. And so having that shift in mentality allowed me to figure out, how do I want to show up, and what environment of consistency do I want to provide for the people that I'm leading? And so that resulted in, yes, some calendar appointments, but those calendar appointments suddenly had like a bigger purpose of like, I need to know how they're doing, because I need that consistency to define how I'm doing. So I want to use those calendar appointments to figure out, how is each person really doing? How are they feeling about this role that they're in, this unusual climate we find ourselves in? One thing that I think is somewhat unique is I didn't actually start working with the team that I'm working with until 2 days before we went into quarantine. One of my team members,
real test there, huh?
Real test. I've actually not met one of my team members in person ever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it just, because he started about a week before we went into quarantine, or maybe a little bit before that. I don't want to say that wrong, Alex, if you're listening. So it's been really, really cool to figure out how I can create relationships with this team. And most of that is through Zoom. So it'll be like kind of like a nice to meet you, see you again, but I feel like I know you so well. Once we're reconnected in person. So that's definitely been a barrier, but I love what you said, Denise, about trying to see that as opportunity to either help someone else overcome that same barrier, or just like knock it out of the way so they don't have to.
Yeah.
Worth a try.
Oh,
Totally.
Absolutely. All right, we're gonna do one more question before we start to wrap up this very amazing and fun experience. So our last question is, what have you learned in this season that you will take back with you into leading at work? So once we're back into the workplace. So Denise, what's one thing that you have learned from this season that you're going to continue to use and throughout working in an office again?
I would say one thing that I've learned in this season is when we look at what we're faced with, how coronavirus is spread through touch. 90% of what we do is touch. We're teaching teachers how to create positive sparks with their students through high fives and all of that. So we're going to have to rethink that. But for me personally, I am a touchy-feely person, and not everybody is. I love hugs. And oftentimes in trainings, I say to everyone, all right, I'm the hugger, so I'm coming for you with a hug. If you don't want a hug, just give me the hand. But what this has allowed me to think of is this is real deal. There are people that it's not because they're socially don't want to participate. Germs are a real deal for them, and they're thinking, I'm just not a touchy-feely type of person. That's going to make me more aware and more sensitive to how many people may be in my audience that feel the same way. And just be aware of that and respectful and loving and caring to their wishes. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of it opens up another sense, basically. Like you're kind of having to shut off your sense of touch and open up like your eyes to visualize like what their emotional response is, your ears to listen to them more. So that's great because I have a tendency to go for the hug first before I like actually see what the person is going through and like acknowledge their emotional response to that. So that's great that you've recognized that and are striving to take that with you in the future. Absolutely. Yeah. Tab, what is one thing that you have learned unique in the season that you're going to bring with you once we go back into the office?
Yeah, I don't know that I learned something unique, but I've figured out a depth of respect to the concept of valuing time. And on so many different levels, I think even just saying it, most people are probably like, yeah. In so many areas of your life, I would go back and value certain things in a different way because I've been absent that. But one thing that really sticks out for me in a work setting is the value of, prioritizing what you're doing each and every day. And it coincides with exactly what we've had to do for every employee to feel like they're working on the right thing towards the right purpose. And they feel like, they hold the keys to their success. And so we have developed a discipline based on how long we've been in quarantine. We've developed a discipline of every moment of every day that everyone knows they're working on the right thing. And so going back into an office space and all of that, I think that people will find very quickly once the newness of getting back together fades, that without that discipline, that they'll see a difference and like how they feel about work, what they think about work. There are people that, although we are separate today, feel more fulfilled in what they're doing than they did before this. And to me, my commitment is to maintain a level of appreciation of valuing everything that we're doing, what time we're spending on it, appreciate what people are coming into with a new value on work-life integration is going to be at an all-time high of how many hours people want to spend away from their families. And I look forward to that challenge. I look forward to ensuring that any moment they choose to spend with us in our building, that it was worthwhile. And I'm committed and I'm excited about the challenge and looking forward to it.
That's great. I mean, that's something that is probably all in the back of our minds, but we've never actually talked about and acknowledged is the value of time, like the time that we have either lost or gained, because there's been a little bit of both. We've lost a lot of time as far as like interacting with people socially, but we have gained so much time with our families. Like, it is just me and my husband, but I'll say like this has been some of the best time that we have had together because it's just the two of us. We have to work together. We are both working adults in the same very small apartment right now. So we're having to value our time differently in this season than we have before. And that's the same goes for a lot of families. Like I know a lot of my coworkers that have families they have struggled with having their children at home because they do have to homeschool them. They have to keep them entertained as they work as well. But they have found so much value in the time that they have had to spend with their children. And they coveted it more than anything else during this time. So I'm glad that you brought up that concept of valuing time because that's very important and very precious right now and something that we all need to think about more.
Absolutely.
And Emily, last for you, what is something that you have learned during this time that you intend to continue to practice throughout when we go back to the office.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we first went into quarantine and we started getting the hang of Zoom calls, I quickly I think I felt my energy depleting rather quickly. I think that I was very cognizant that I wanted to, bring double, if not triple the energy to kind of like mitigate the difference of like, we're not in person. I need to compensate for that. So initially it kind of wore me out. But I think as I've, gotten the hang of it, I found that the case with energy is that it doesn't actually deplete. The more you use it, it regenerates. And so it's allowed me to continue to like feel like I'm able to have that same level of energy and give that. And I found that it's created a more of an atmosphere, atmosphere of transparency. And I've actually felt people regenerating that energy for me. And it's not just been like, I'm regenerating it because I'm giving so much. It's not that. It's been, there are incredible people that are seeing that and replicating it or doing it on their own. And I've been fed and poured into in that way. And I want to take that. I don't think that's exclusive to Zoom. I think maybe I discovered it through Zoom and through quarantine, but I want to continue to bring that same kind of energy and receive that same kind of energy, because I've found that people need to be poured into a lot. A lot. We all do. And so it's worth finding a source of energy to continue those efforts.
Yeah, it's definitely, I thought about that concept a lot as well. Like during this time, we were having to pour so much more out of our cup to other people. And that may be because, we have a sense of care that we want to like make sure that others feel cared about, or because we feel like we need to work harder during this time. So we're pouring more out of our cup. And we're not realizing that others are pouring into us as well by showing up. And so it's kind of like this symbiotic relationship that we have of, I'm going to pour some of my cup out to you of my energy and show you that I'm committed to this 30-minute tedious Zoom call, but you're also going to show me your energy and pour back into my cup because I see your energy during this as well. And that's very important. I mean, not even over Zoom calls, like when you're having a one-on-one conversation face-to-face with someone, being able to show that you are committed to that conversation or committed to nurturing that relationship, they're going to pour back into your cup as well, because they're going to say, wow, this person really cares about me. This person is giving me a smile. They're, holding my shoulder, giving me some of their energy. So I'm going to give them some of my energy as well. So it's great that you've had the time to really like have that idea come into fruition for you to like consciously think about it throughout. So I'm very excited for that. We did have one more question come in and I really want to ask it. So we're going to take real quick to stab at this. Josh Boyer asked us, asking as a man, and since this is a women's panel, what message would you want to share with all the men present here? What would help us understand how you want to be perceived as a woman and as a leader? So who wants to take a stab?
I'll take a stab at it. That's my kind of question.
Wow, all right.
Go, girl.
So, to you, Josh, and all the men here, thank you so much for that question and your willingness to better understand. I would start off first by saying, make no assumptions. Don't just assume that the women in leadership wants to be perceived a certain way. But get to know them. Get to know them on a different level, not just as a leader, but know who they are. Don't handle them as if the last woman in leadership may have had some effect on you or anyone else. Don't bleed that on that woman currently in leadership. Get to know them. Make no assumptions. And the same way you would treat any colleague that might be your leader, treat them the same. Just as a leader, respect first, getting to know them, not making assumptions, and see it more as you're in this together. Ask questions, make no assumptions.
Right. And then it goes back to what we said earlier about that gender barrier when it comes to diversity. It's just like, it's not there.
Right.
It's not there. So thank you for that, Denise. Tab, is there something that you would like, what message would you like to share with all the men there to help us understand what you want?
Okay.
I'm like, oh,
I think this is the best person to answer this question. I can't wait to hear her answer. So,
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. First off, I, usually don't deal with questions like that. But at the end of the day, I appreciate it. Thank you, Boyer. Yeah, I think that the first thing that comes to mind is if that is what we need to talk about, then I think we're talking about the wrong thing. So I'm going to be questioning if that becomes something we've got to navigate through, then we're not in alignment on what this time is for. And so I feel like, what Denise said is absolutely a tangible thing to help you get in an environment by which you initiate a conversation. But at the end of the day, if I'm involved, it's going to be let's get to the point of purpose. And if we're aligned in where we're going, then we're going to wrestle with diversity to get there. So yeah, just be focused on the destination and create a belief around, is this person aligned with you to get there? Because you'll overcome anything that gets in the way.
Perfect. Awesome. Emily?
Yeah. I think I would say I love being a woman. All right. I love getting to empower other women to step into what their unique leadership style is and what their giftings are and who they were meant to be. And I love having conversations about what impact you can have as a woman. That does not mean that I don't think men can have incredible impact too. So the message isn't exclusive. I think that we're in an environment on all realms where a lot of women need to hear that, but it's not because there needs to be like an air of difference between men and women. Feminism is about equality. And I love that. And I love that that Josh, you're asking because the way the question is posed, it sounds like you would agree with that and you want to be respectful and mindful of that. And so I think I'd go back to a little bit of what I said earlier, and that if the qualifier that puts me in the realm of diversity is that I'm a woman, I would disagree. I think I'm in the diversity realm because of who I am internally. But if the platform that helps me impact people into understanding what makes them unique is womanhood, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I love being a woman. I'm unique as a woman. I'm not unique because I'm a woman.
Yeah. That's a great.
Thank you.
I love it. Yeah, I think that the first thing that I thought of when the question was posed was, the biggest thing that women are in leadership are trying to accomplish is an inclusive message that it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. A woman can do just as much as a man can, and a man can do just as much as a woman can. It just depends on like your intrinsic value. It depends on your personality of like whether or not you're gonna make it as far as the person next to you. I think that I'm not gonna generalize. I think that men out there have this perception that women have a chip on their shoulder because they're a woman. That because we're a woman, we have to have this mindset that no matter who stands in our way, if it's a man, we're gonna mow him down. Like they perceive us as having this chip, whereas like it's more of we want to blend. Like, yeah, sure, women are amazing and we want to be the best we can be, but we don't want to be sought out because we're a woman. We don't want to be like, we don't want that gender quota question to be like an option. It's man or woman, who cares? You're a leader. I agree with you. I have loyalty for you. I respect you. Let's go. So I'm glad we rounded it out with that question, because I think that's very important for us to verbalize, is that we don't care. We're women, we're strong, and we're a leader because we want to be, not because there are men in leadership. We feel like we have the intrinsic value. Right. Exactly. We feel like we're qualified. We have the intrinsic value to be that person for others. So, and
it's different in every single situation.
Yeah.
person here, like you spoke about, Emily, like our purpose, like it's going to look different. How I serve the people that I serve is going to be different than how Tabbatha might serve the people that she serves. And that's all right. And that's all that it's about. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. How are you going to serve your people, and how are they going to know that they are cared about, valued, seen, and heard?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sad that our time is coming to an end, because this has been an amazing experience to get to discuss all these questions with you ladies and share your experiences and your tips and tricks and stuff like that. So thank you all again. Thank you, Denise, Tabbatha, Emily, for spending this hour with us and sharing your experience in leadership. We just want to thank the audience as well for tuning in with us for AL Live, and be sure to join us next week as well. Same time, same place, Tuesdays at 12 p.m. And thank you again. We'll have all of those questions, if we didn't get to them, answered in the comments later on. If you didn't have a chance to ask your question, put it in there. We'll definitely answer it later. And just thank you again for tuning in for our first women's panel. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having
me.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great week. Dance it out.
Hey, we did it. We did it.
I did it.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you all.
Okay.